I love the Mafia games. The original Mafia, legendary. The Mafia Definitive Edition remake of that, also phenomenal. You should absolutely go play that if you have not. Mafia 2, classic game. Play it every year around Christmas time when it's winter and snowy. I love it. And Mafia 3 started very, very rough. And while it's not an amazing game, after like you get through the first few waves of it, it's actually a pretty solid game. Lots of problems, but pretty solid. And 2K says they will reveal a sequel to, quote, one of its biggest and most beloved franchises next week. And almost everybody who is in the know is expecting something for Mafia coming. So people are expecting that there's going to be probably some announcement, either Mafia related. It could be Bioshock related because they are working on something Bioshock. It's not super clear. They announced back in December of 2019 that work had begun on a new entry of Bioshock, and it would be in development for the next few years. Really recently, it's been claimed that they're working towards a big announcement. And so it could be either one, honestly, but I would be happy either way. If it's a new Bioshock or if it's a new Mafia game, I would be stoked regardless. I want to know in the chats, YouTube chat and Twitch chat, what do you think it is? What are you expecting? Are you expecting Mafia or Bioshock? Because it's almost certain it's one of those two that they're referring to here. Because both Mafia and Bioshock are some of their biggest and most beloved franchises. Both? You think they drop both? Yeah, Judas is unrelated to Bioshock. Judas is being developed by Ken Levine, who was previously the head of like the team that made Bioshock, and he was the director on like Bioshock Infinite. But he left, made a new studio, and then he's doing Judas. But they have a separate team outside of that that is doing the next Bioshock game. Vito Scaletta. Yeah. Walter White. Come get some gabagool, Walter. Thanks, Luke, all the best. Oh, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Bioshock, maybe Yakuza. Well, they just had a Yakuza game, so I don't think that they'll have something there. Mafia is Mafia. You're damn right. Mafia 4, Bioshock, I wish. Mafia, hands down. Yeah, I think that it could be either. I'd be stoked regardless. I wish I heard, I wish I knew rumblings. I wish I knew, but it's going to be revealed on the 7th of June at Summer Game Fest. Borderlands 4. I mean, maybe, but when they say one of 2K's biggest, most beloved franchises, 2K like just bought the rights to like just bought Gearbox, right? So it's not really been theirs. I know they've published it, I think, every time, but I wouldn't consider that like one of their franchises. So when I hear this, I think something they own or have owned for a long time, which would be Mafia or Bioshock. I don't know. Jonathan Pelling, who was a designer on the original Bioshock as well as creative director at the 2K Australia team responsible for Infinite's Floating World of Columbia, is design director for the new Bioshock. The game's creative director is Hoagie Delaplante, who was involved in the original Bioshock across multiple disciplines, including level design, environment art, and programming. And then Scott Sinclair, the art director of the original Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite, is also working on Bioshock 4. So they have some OGs. Ken Levine is not there. And this was something like people were, I remember commenting when we did that video on Judas when we brought up Bioshock, and people were like, oh, maybe it's gonna be bad. Maybe we should be really worried about it because Ken Levine is like the head honcho. And the fact that he's not there could mean that it's missing like the oversight or the visionary that made Infinite so great. And I understand that knee-jerk reaction. And there's no doubt Ken Levine is a very talented game designer, and he's very, very, very good at what he does. But he also is notoriously difficult to work with from a business perspective. So one of the big things with Ken Levine is that his games often get trapped in development hell. They're freakishly expensive because he's a perfectionist and goes back and forth constantly between what he wants to do. So it was noted that like during the development of Bioshock Infinite, he basically restarted development on that a few times. And so just because something like he's a visionary, sure. But if his version of the game would do, say, 10 million copies, he restarted development twice to get there, or 3 times to get there or something. So the game was way more expensive than it should have been to put together. So for the studio, for like 2K, it would make more sense to have somebody else direct it, get a pretty good game that sells 7 million copies, but they actually make more money because they didn't have to restart development twice or 3 times, whatever it was. So, and when I say restart development, I mean like they scrapped a bunch of stuff and went back to the drawing board because he wanted to change stuff around. So with a lot of this, I just think both games I'm sure are going to be good. Judas seems interesting, and I think the next Bioshock could be really, really good. They have some OGs working on it, so I'm excited to see what they're working on. But if it's a Mafia game, if that's what we get, oh baby, I'm going to lose it. He took my thing.